Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. Let's go see a movie in a prison. Pentridge Prison's a weird place. It was a prison from 1851 all the way to 1997. And now they've turned it into this weird place. It's full of apartment blocks and shops and stores and brew pubs and things like that. They've retconned the whole place into being something totally different. Ned Kelly was in prison here, and Chopper Reed was in prison here. And the last man to be executed by government in Australia, Ronald Ryan, was in prison here and was executed here. And now they've got cinemas, and I'm going to review the cinema as much as I'm going to review this movie. Palace Cinemas isn't bad. It's very bare bones and industrial looking. It's got some kind of old-fashioned seating around the place. It's got decent coffee, which is always a big plus for me in any kind of cinema. It's got pictures of Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell. It's got the usual ceiling ducts without any covering on them to give it that industrial look. They wanted to keep it in tune with the whole feel of the place. And the good thing is they've also got original movie posters, not digital versions, but pinned to the wall movie posters, including this one, which is for a A24 musical called Dix. And the corridors are very, very bare going to the cinemas. There are 15 cinemas in all. And it's a bit David Lynchy going down these corridors to Cinema 9, where I was going to watch the Godzilla movie. I also took a look at Cinema 12, which is one of the big ones, and it's got this big stadium seating area, which is kind of cool. And the people let me go about half an hour early up to Cinema 9. And when they did, the previous movie hadn't ended, but there was only one old lady watching the movie. So I sat down and watched the last 10 minutes of Journey to Bethlehem, which is a 2023 musical about the birth of Jesus. The 10 minutes I saw was truly horrible. It had auto-tune music, it had really bad acting, it was nightmarish for me. But I sat through it and then I got to analyse the cinema a bit. Small cinema was not bad. The seats half reclined, they put your feet up but not very far. They're comfortable, they've got drink holders. You can even buy glasses of wine and drink them in the cinemas, but you've got to take the glasses back to the bar when you do. So all up, it's not a bad cinema. The ads they showed before the movie were a bit weird because they were all for financial advisors and real estate agents and bubble tea places. And it reminded me of how much Coburg, the area where this jail is, has been gentrified over the years. But then I sat down and the cinema filled up with people who wanted to see Godzilla Minus One. And now I'm going to go back to the video and tell you what I think of that movie. Okay, Godzilla Minus One. You should see this movie. Some people have said it's the best Godzilla movie since the 1954 original, and I'll agree. It is the best Godzilla movie since the 1954 original. Ignore the Raymond Burr version, go back to the original. And there's a feeling about that which is post-war Japan in trauma. And this movie starts out and continues on that path. Yamazaki Takashi, the director, has previously addressed this era of Japan's history in other movies, in fact in 2 other movies. He knows it really well. He's a special effects guy as much as he is a director. And he starts this movie out really interestingly. A kamikaze pilot at the end of the war in 1945 lands on an airstrip on Odo Island and tells the ground crew that there's something wrong with his plane, but they can't find anything wrong with his plane. So he camps there overnight with them. They're all talking about how the war's ending and how things haven't gone Japan's way. And then suddenly the beach and the waterfront are full of deep sea fish which have come to the surface for some reason. And then something the size of a dinosaur attacks the base and stomps everybody on it. They send the pilot, whose name is Koichi, to his plane to open up with his machine guns and take down this beast. But he's traumatized. He throws up on the side of his plane and he's too scared to move. But all but one of the crew die because of this beast, whom the locals call Godzilla. Koichi goes back to Japan at the end of the war, is repatriated, goes back to his home and finds out that his home and his parents have died during the Tokyo firestorms, the bombing that America did to Tokyo, which killed 100,000 people, which is more than either Hiroshima or Nagasaki. The whole place burned because all the buildings were made of wood, and Koichi has come home and found that his parents have died. He still owns the house, such as it is, and his neighbour Sumiko has lost all 3 of her children, and she is angry with him for not winning the war, and she beats him on the chest and tells him off. He has come back to absolutely nothing. While he's wandering around trying to work out what to do, he meets a young woman called Noriko, who has a child. That child's name is Akiko, and it's a baby, and they get Sumiko's help to feed the baby. They don't know what to do. Sumiko gives them the rice that she has to make a rice gruel so the kid won't die of malnutrition. And they form a kind of family together, even though it's not formalized in any way. And Koichi finds a job on a minesweeper. There's an old ratty wooden boat that he finds a job on, which with another boat drags a chain across the coasts of Japan where there are thousands and thousands of sea mines, and they grab the mines and then shoot them with machine guns to blow them up. And they need to use a wooden boat because some of the mines are American magnetic mines and they will attach to the hull of any other kind of ship. So they're basically tasked with cleaning up the post-war mess. Noriko, as time goes on, finds a job in an office in Ginza, where she works as a secretary, and they're slowly building a future for themselves. They rebuild the house. They have the neighbour Sumiko to look after the baby while they're working, and they form a kind of family. But because of his trauma, Koichi can't commit to the relationship with Noriko. And then Godzilla comes back as a rebuilding themselves. And Japan was rebuilding in the years between 1945 and 1947, or as they were known in Japan, Showa 20, 21 and 22. The Americans did something on Bikini Atoll in mid-1946, blew up a nuclear weapon, which mutated Godzilla, which was already a surviving dinosaur, into something much, much larger and much, much deadlier. It can regenerate, it has nuclear breath, and it's unstoppable by everything anybody can imagine. Godzilla comes ashore and takes out Ginza. The whole district gets destroyed, which then moves out of Tokyo. And the Americans who were running Japan at the time say, nope, we're not going to deal with this. If we bring in lots of military assets into the area, it's going to upset the Russians, and we've already got tensions between Russia and America. So Japan, you got to deal with this. And so a method is found to try to take down this unstoppable, implacable monster using the resources Japan had, a few battleships, civilian ships, old tanks, and one experimental fireplane which Koichi can pilot. And so you get this whole third act where the ships find a way to try to destroy Godzilla, and it takes all 3 methods to ultimately take down the monster. Now I'm trying to keep as far from spoilers as I can on this. This is a fantastic movie. This movie was made partly by Toho to celebrate 70 years of Gojira, and it honours that legacy and that history. It is superb at doing that. It also honours the legacy of post-war Japanese cinema in general. There's a lot of feeling of Yasujiro Ozu's movies in this. A little bit where Noriko, Akiko and Koichi are sitting around their little house at night and just having a meal and talking with the friends that he made on his minesweeper ship, a very random and interesting crew. That has a lot of feel of a Yasujiro Ozu movie. It's not shot at the Tamibat level the way Ozu's movies were, but it's got that feeling of fragile and flawed people bonding together and talking with each other and having a good time. That's also something you see in some of the early films of Akira Kurosawa. Things like The Quiet Duel and a couple of other films, just living life things where you get to know the characters, is all in this movie. And by the time things get really pointy and the 2 attacks on Tokyo occur, where Gojira is coming towards Tokyo and will take the place out, we really invest in the movie because the movie does the great honour for its audience of getting us to care about the characters. All of the characters are damaged and changed by the end of World War II. Koichi doubts his own courage and doubts his right to live. He has a death wish. Noriko, who has her own trauma, loves him and wants to build a future with him, but he puts up a wall between them because he sees himself as a coward and a failure. Along with a bunch of ex-military people, they find a way to try to deal with this insurmountable obstacle. The government's not going to do it, so a bunch of ex-admirals and ex-Navy crew and mechanics and everyday working people bond together and use resources that are just around and that they force the government to give to them. They go up against Godzilla with inadequate equipment, but a plan. But this movie just does it for me. And because we're so invested in the characters and invested in their arc, the fact that Godzilla is attacking them matters to us as an audience. There's a scene where the little minesweeper, which is a ramshackle wooden boat, stops Godzilla dead in its tracks. And it's marvellous that happens. It's one of those moments where you want to go, fuck yeah, because they use a couple of the mines that they pick up to try to stop Godzilla from attacking Tokyo while delaying Godzilla so that a Navy ship can attack him. The Navy ship is not successful in this, but they delay long enough for the Navy ship to come and engage with Godzilla. It's a scene that reminds you of the boat in Jaws, and this is one of the things that the director, Miyazaki Takashi, has said is an influence on him. Those little people on the boat attacking an insurmountable beast has echoes of Jaws, but it's also a thing of its own. The cinematography by Shibazaki Kozo is superb as well. It feels like 1945 to 1947. And Yamazaki Takashi, the director, has made 2 previous movies at least, which address that period of Japanese history. One was about the creation of the battleship Yamato, and the other one is a much lighter film set in that particular part of the Showa era. But it's the engagement with the characters that makes this film work. Yes, the special effects are fantastic. They are awesome in the best possible way. They are awe-inspiring. The movie was made for $15 million American, and it's exceeded that since then. It's really, it's something very special, and it's something that if you're a fan of Japanese cinema, if you're a fan of Godzilla movies, you're gonna love this. You should see it. It's got subtitles, but yeah, you're a grown-up. Read the bloody subtitles. And the characters, the world, the story, which was delayed because of COVID, and it gave the director time to rewrite the story and to perfect it, which is one of the benefits, I suppose, of COVID. While everybody was locked down, creative people were working really hard to make their next project a good one. So the acting is fantastic, the story is great, the monster works. There are moments when you see a Godzilla more powerful and godlike than any Godzilla you've ever seen in a movie. There's the scene where Godzilla rears up and roars after taking out Ginza, which will send shivers down your spine. See it in the cinema if you can. If you can't, get it on 4K, get it on the best possible media you can, because this is something extraordinary. It not only is a great Godzilla movie, it is a great piece of cinema. It's a great character story. It shows us things we haven't seen before, and it shows us familiar things in a totally new light. You should see it, and if you have seen it, see it again. I had to go all the way across town to Pentridge to see it because all the local cinemas weren't showing it. Palace Cinemas had the distribution rights, and the nearest Palace Cinema for me was the one at Pentridge. So I had to travel 35 kilometres to see it, and I don't regret that for a second. It was an experience. And when the Godzilla March theme from the first movie comes up as the last action scenes happen, I was leaning on my armrest with my chin on my fist, loving every second of it. You should see this movie. You will love it. If you're at all a monster kid, you are going to love it. If you like good cinema, you're going to love it. Check it out. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel by donating at patreon.com/TerryDogsMovies or becoming a channel member. Got Science Fiction Saturday coming up soon, and we're going to get another double feature there. So the future is bright. Until then, watch some good movies, watch Godzilla movies, and I'll catch you next time.